You know, learning and development's a really big topic. And so Kirsten and I have been taking you on a journey to help you understand how you can get the best from what learning and development looks like, both for you and your teams. So we've looked at defining what learning can look like for your business and for yourselves at a competency level and at an individual level. We've looked at selecting the right type of learning methodology, whether it's formal or informal, and so forth. We've looked at the actual learning itself, so how to set yourself up and get the most from that learning experience. And this last episode that we're going to take you through today is absolutely around the application and reflection, which are often the pieces that get missed out when we're looking at those learning opportunities. But that is absolutely where the rubber hits the road and where people start feeling really empowered, and actually the business starts seeing that amazing return on investment, whether it's financial or in time, where they've put that time and resource aside for that person to actually take place and participate in that learning environment. So today, Kirsten and I are sharing some really fun practical tips with you around how to apply and reflect on that really valuable learning that's just taken place with you and your teams.
And I'm going to pick the apply piece. And the reason I've got the apply piece is it's absolutely just part of my DNA, and it's a reputation that I know that I've got out there. And a lady rang me up the other day and she said, I've been referred to you. I've heard that you are really big on keeping people accountable and owning their learning about applying it. So there's no point in going to any type of learning event, informal, formal, on the job, or whichever, that multimodality, if you're not going to apply something and make it happen, right? You're wasting everyone's time. So I'm doing applying, and what I want you to do at the end of this is to really look at what traction do you and your team members get post an learning opportunity. And so with the application side of things, in the previous episode, what I went through is I went through and I explained how, you know, you've got a piece of information, you work out then how you're going to apply that, and then you link that to a behavior. This application stage is all around making sure that you take that implementation plan and you make it actually happen. So the way we do that is we look at what are we going to do post a learning, 24 hours, 48 hours. What are we doing in that first week, second week, and 21 days. And then if you wanted to, if it was really big learning, you'd put out that learning plan to 30, 60, and 90 days. But the key thing here is becoming accountable and scheduling that learning in the actual application of it into your diaries to make sure that it actually does happen. Now, when we go to a learning event and we talk about the buzz that people get, get really excited, but reality hits, because when we come back to the work and we're out of that learning opportunity area, what happens is our comfort zone sort of creeps on around us and it makes us feel really comfy and really secure again, right? But what we want to do is make sure that we aren't getting too comfortable sitting in that comfort zone. If you want to be the best that you can be, you need to push that boundary of your comfort zone, because growth never happened in your comfort zone, and learning never happened in your comfort zone. It's about when you push those boundaries out and you go into that learning zone and that growth zone, that you actually will see a change and you'll get a return on your investment for making that learning actually count for something. So please make sure that you do, when you are back, you're leveraging that implementation plan that you created during your learning event. You're making sure that you've scheduled in time to really apply that, and you're being very deliberate in that practice, and that you're ensuring that you are demonstrating and putting in place specific behaviors that are linked to that learning. When you put all of those things together, growth will happen, okay? But it's about making sure we don't just sink back into that beautiful comfort zone. That's where our brain will want to take us to. That's where our emotions will want to take us to. But that learning was an absolute waste of time. It is about making sure that you apply it and you get some real anchored, deliberate practice in place to get that growth. So that's the big piece for me, is making sure that you actually take that learning, link it to behaviors, make sure it's scheduled in, anchor it to key parts that are happening throughout your day to make sure that that new behavior is actually then triggered when you do an activity that you've previously been doing. So that's your anchor point. Okay, so I'm going to pass over to Sarah now, but please don't forget that application and the implementation, because learning doesn't happen just by turning up to a learning event.
It certainly doesn't. And we can actually amplify that apply piece that Kirsten's just spoken to you about by looking at reflection. And you might sit there and think, yes, I went and did that course. It was great. And I've got these learning actions that I'm going to put in place, but what else? And I love the application, but I also like the reflection piece probably just as much, which is why I'm talking to you about it today. And the reflection is just that, it is that amplification of learning, or the application of learning, because what we're doing when we're reflecting is we're actually going to take what we've learned and we're going to share it, because there's a really great way to apply your learning, and that's having to actually talk about it and communicate it to somebody else. There's no better way to actually apply your learning, actually, in some instances. And so some ways we can go about that is, if you've been away, I know a business actually, if for any person that attends any external course, they have to complete a summary of what that is and share it with the rest of their business. It's actually just the way they do things. And I think it's such an incredible and simple tool that everybody can use, but it helps the individual that's participated in that learning, not only with the application piece that Kirsten's talked about, but really reflecting on what their key takeaways were for them and why. And then it can also help embed those behaviours that Kirsten and I love so much in terms of what they're going to do differently. So you can have a really nice little section around, here are the things that we want you to talk about when you've been on these external courses. And as I mentioned, I know a business that does this. Every single person in external course, they have to complete this one-page summary, and it just gets shared amongst the business, and it's their norm now. So they get used to seeing these learning snippets coming out. Another one I really like is particularly, and another business that does this as well. So when the senior managers are heading away, or actually anybody in their business, on a conference. So conferences sometimes have a reputation of being a bit la-la and out there and a bit of a joyride, but they're not. And conferences are phenomenal learning opportunities. And when the managers are away at a conference, they actually have to come back to the business and present back to the people in their business what the key learnings were from those conferences, and explain how they're also going to take those key learnings and apply it in their roles. And what that's done for this business is it's just opened up and completely busted that myth that conferences are a bit of a joyride, but actually they're really serious content-rich experiences that these managers are going on, so they can bring back incredibly valuable information around potentially new tools or ways of doing things that they can use both internally, but also with their customers as well. So it's having that more holistic approach around what their learning is doing for them. So my challenge to you is, how can you then take with your people the learning experiences they've got and give them the opportunity to reflect back and actually share the learnings that they've got, or the key messages that they've taken away, with other people in their businesses. Perhaps you've got a course coming up soon, or you've just completed one. You know, take that little snippet and start applying it in your business right away. And I'm sure other people in your business will absolutely love hearing about what the key information is that those participants have learned on those courses.
This learning series is something that's very close to our hearts, and if we really want to be the best that we can be, show up as our best self, and always be on that upward trajectory to make sure that we are really excelling in our growth and taking both ourselves, our roles, our profession, and our businesses to the next level, then we need to concentrate on learning. You know, learning is a commitment for you as a leader to invest in yourself. It needs to start with you. You need to be role modeling. You need to be making sure that you're still keeping really relevant and front footing what's currently out there in the new learning space. And please make sure that you're spotlighting your team to give them those learning opportunities as well. So this has been a four-part series where we're focused on the 5 stages that Sarah and I find critical in that learning and growth, because we want actually optimal growth, and that was the name of this series. So we started off and we looked at how do we define what learning is actually required. We then moved into the select series, which was all around making sure we selected appropriately, and then of course we went into the learning event to actually make sure that that counted, and then we've finished with apply and reflect. We really hope you've enjoyed this series, and it's one that we know that you can go away immediately and apply and get immediate results from.